Aloha and good evening, everyone. It is Tuesday, June 17th, 2025, and the time is now 6:04 p.m. Will the Committee on Zoning please come to order? I would like to welcome the following committee members. Committee Vice Chair Dos Santos Tam, Councilmember Cordero, Councilmember Wire, and Councilmember Okimoto is excused. Pursuant to Section 92-3.7 Hawaii Revised Statutes, this meeting will be conducted as a remote meeting by interactive conference technology with the following procedures in effect for the meeting. Members of the public will be allowed to provide verbal testimony on all items on the agenda in two ways, remotely and in person in the council chamber. Remote and in-person verbal testimony will be allowed when the agenda item is taken up. As both English and Hawaiian are official languages of the state of Hawaii, pursuant to Article 15, Section 4 of the Hawaii State Constitution and Section 113 of Hawaii Revised Statutes, members of the public may testify in either language. For verbal testimonies offered in Olelo, Hawaii, additional time as may be necessary will be allowed for the testifier to provide an English translation of their testimony. Before testifying, each person shall state their name. Each speaker may not have anyone else read their statement and is limited to a 1-minute presentation on each item. I will first proceed to in-person testimony in the council chamber. Persons who have not registered will be given an opportunity to speak following the verbal testimonies of the registered speakers. Once all of the in-person testifiers have testified, I will proceed to remote testimony. All persons who have registered to testify remotely by video conference or phone will be called upon first. When your name is called, please monitor your screen and activate your audio feed when prompted. For those who are joining us by telephone only, I will identify you by the last 3 digits of your phone number. When your number is called, please press *6 to unmute yourself when prompted. I will then give persons who have not registered an opportunity to offer testimony. Please utilize the raise hand feature in Zoom to be called on. Some friendly reminders and tips: video conference from a quiet location if possible. If you're also watching the proceedings on Olelo, please mute your television at the time you're called to testify. When the timer on screen reaches 0, please conclude your remarks promptly. HRS Section 92-3.7 requires all votes at remote meetings to be conducted by a roll call unless unanimous. However, a roll call vote does not apply to this evening's meeting because we have only one item on the agenda, and it is a discussion item that does not require any vote. Written testimonies, including the testifier's address, email address, and phone number, will be available to the public as described on the posted agenda. As a courtesy, please turn off all cell phones. Moving to agenda item number 1 for discussion only, Bill 37, 2025. This bill amends the state land use boundary map, Haleiwa Quadrangle, by reclassifying 7.292 acres of land in Haleiwa, Oahu, from the State Land Use Agricultural District to the State Land Use Urban District. This meeting supplements the discussion we had on this bill at our last meeting on May 29th, 2025. While we had a good conversation at that meeting, we agreed that it may have been difficult for some members of the public to provide testimony because the meeting was held during the morning portion of a workday. We scheduled this evening meeting so more people from the community could participate after their workday ended. The property subject to the State Land Use District Boundary Amendment is an approximately 7.292 acre portion, referred to as the petition area, of an approximately 7.525 acre zoning lot identified as tax map key 620050002, referred to as the Haleiwa property. The remaining 0.233 portion of the Haleiwa property is already classified as within the State Land Use Urban District and consists of a portion of Opaiula Road. Basin Project, Inc. owns the Haleiwa property, and Haleiwa Backyards, LLC is the applicant. The Haleiwa property is located within the Haleiwa Special District. This State Land Use District Boundary Amendment is the first step for the applicant to obtain regulatory entitlements for the planned development of the Haleiwa property, with approximately 150 to 156 low-rise apartment dwelling units, approximately 30,000 square feet of commercial space, parking, and wastewater management system. Once the site is classified as within the State Land Use Urban District, it would allow for a rezone of the site from the Ag 1 Restricted Agricultural District to the B1 Neighborhood Business District and A1 Low Density Apartment District. Opai Ula Road is currently zoned P2 General Preservation District, and while excluded from the petition area, it will be included in the zone change application. Joining us in the council chamber is Jim Hayes from Planning Solutions, Inc., the applicant's agent, who will be providing a brief presentation. For your information, the presentation is available online as Miscellaneous Communication 342-2025.
Thank you, Chair. First, I want to provide some information regarding the location and condition of the subject parcel. Then I'll get into why Bill 37 is before you now.
I know I identified you, but can you please
oh, sorry. Yep.
Identify yourself?
Jim Hayes with Planning Solutions as agent for the applicant. So importantly, Bill 37 does not approve any development or use at the site. It is only a state district boundary amendment. And as shown here, the site is between Kamehameha Highway and Joseph P. Leong Highway, better known as the bypass. And it is outside of the special management area. A single parcel, roughly 7.5 acres, primarily in the restricted agricultural AG1 zone on the city and county level. And although zoned for agriculture, it is not well suited for agricultural use due to its shape and topography, lack of access to agricultural water, proximity to residential and commercial uses, and due to its soil conditions after use as a staging area during bypass construction. There's ample agricultural land nearby that does not suffer from these issues. So this aerial photograph identifies the project site and helps you kind of visualize where it is, and shows that it's currently undeveloped and unused there between the highway and the bypass. It is a remnant parcel that was formed when Department of Transportation acquired the right-of-way for the bypass. And in certain other parts of this photograph, you can see other agricultural land in the area that is outside of the community growth boundary. So importantly, hazard zones. So the site is outside of the coastal and flood hazard zones as shown here, and it is also outside of the tsunami evacuation area. Moving on to the community's Sustainable Communities Plan, the site is within the community growth boundary and the country town district established in the Sustainable Communities Plan. So that area is shown, the country town district is shown in the hatching on this figure. And you can see the site shown in orange within that hatched area and essentially in the middle of Haleiwa town. The Sustainable Communities Plan is undergoing a comprehensive review, but the growth boundary is not expected to change as a result of that review. The 2021 plan that was adopted and from which this figure is taken suggests that the growth boundary is sufficient to provide infill opportunities such as the proposed project through the year 2035. And the DPP website states that the vision is to maintain the community growth boundary as it is today, as it is in the adopted 2011 plan. So Bill 37 would amend the state land use district boundary. If approved, the area shown in yellow here would be moved, and that's roughly 7.3 acres of the parcel, would be moved to the state urban district, which is shown in red. So a small portion of the parcel, Opai Ula Road portion, is already in the urban district, and the residential, commercial, and industrial properties to the west are also in the urban district. By amending the district boundary as proposed by Bill 37, the state would no longer have a role in governing the development or use of the site. Applicable city and county of Honolulu land use rules will continue to apply. The land use ordinance will continue to govern development and use of the parcel. The bulk of the parcel, the 7.3 acres shown in yellow here, will continue to be in the restricted agricultural AG1 zone. Only agricultural use with a small farm dwelling will be allowed. Changes in the state land use district boundary via the passage of Bill 37 will not change the range of uses that can occur on the site. As the chair discussed, the proposed project can only proceed after Bill 37 passes and then seeks a zone change at the city and county level. That will require more discussion among the community regarding the project, and will also require that this body pass another bill to modify or amend the city and county zoning. So bringing this district boundary amendment proposal to you, we've complied with all applicable rules and instructions. We've exceeded the requirements by presenting the project to the North Shore Neighborhood Board. Since that time, the Planning Commission and DPP have reviewed the application, and they support the boundary amendment because the proposed project or other urban use of the land is consistent with the currently adopted plan and can provide needed housing in a manner that preserves agricultural land and the North Shore's rural character. This slide shows the applicant's proposed project, a concept of the proposed project that could only proceed following a future city zone change. The conceptual plan shows the general layout of the applicant's plan development. The proposed project is an infill project that complies with the design guidelines of the Sustainable Community Plan by proposing low-density apartments with a small neighborhood business area within the country town district. It is near commercial areas, jobs, schools, and parks. It has 2 access points to Kamehameha Highway, where bus routes and utilities are present. The proposed infill development will help alleviate the fact that North Shore residents are cost burdened in the rental housing market and no longer able to afford on the North Shore, live on the North Shore. I'll also point out that the plan includes extensive landscaping, including canopy trees, that will be sustained using recycled wastewater. The recycling of wastewater is just one of the low impact development measures incorporated in the project. The project is designed to foster community among those living there and support the broader North Shore community by hosting neighborhood businesses, not surf shops targeted towards tourism. This slide summarizes how the project complies with the North Shore Sustainable Community Plan. And I'll point out that the community plan is not a no-growth plan. The plan indicates that 783 new housing units are needed in the area. The proposed project addresses less than 20% of that need. It provides, or proposes to provide, multifamily apartment dwellings, which are one possible option that people are likely to desire in the community. The plan states that multifamily housing is desired to ensure affordability and appropriately priced housing in for existing residents, including low and moderate income groups and the GAP group. The planned structures will not be more than 3 stories and will not exceed 40 feet in height. And as discussed at length, it is within the country town district. The proposed project is the sort of project that the plan indicates should be given priority in Chapter 5 of the plan. The Bill 37 District Boundary Amendment is consistent with the plan, and the project will involve the use of vacant land within the community growth boundary. The project keeps the country by developing needed housing for local people in the country town. It represents good planning and will decrease development pressure on high-quality agricultural land in the region. So we also want to provide this information related to rental rates and affordable housing. to address community interest in and desire for affordable housing. This slide shows how applicable rules may be applied to the proposed project. The proposed development is not luxury housing. It is designed for the workforce or gap group, which are terms used to describe families earning up to 120% of the area median income, or AMI. Should the project proceed, an affordable housing agreement would be developed during the zone change process. That agreement could be different than what is shown here. This is just a concept of what might be in that agreement. So keep in mind that this is just one possible affordable housing scenario. It could be modified further should HUD or other affordable housing incentive programs be used to help finance the development. Per appropriate guidelines or applicable guidelines, the rents shown here do not include electrical or water utilities. So the maximum that a family can spend on housing has to include both the utilities and the rent. And so this is less than the total maximum price for all those considered together. It's likely to be less than 4 years until anyone occupies a unit in the proposed development. And monthly rents in 2029 will surely be different than the numbers shown here. Census data indicates that more families on the North Shore are in the 81 to 120% AMI group than the 80% AMI group. That 81 to 120% AMI group is the gap group, or the workforce housing group, that the proposed project is designed for. Also keep in mind that market rent is established by the market. Recent comparable market rents, so other two-bedroom units on the North Shore, their rent was roughly $2,700. The proposed project will provide new units in a favorable location. Therefore, market rent may be slightly higher than the $2,700 that's been recently charged nearby, but is not likely to reach the $3,800, which is the maximum for those earning 120% of the AMI. So the market rent will be affordable for that gap group. Short-term rentals will not be allowed, and because these units are long-term rentals, the units will not become unoccupied investments for non-residents. An early market study indicates that demand well exceeds the number of units being proposed, and during the permitting process, the scope of the project may be adjusted to account for community input or permit conditions or market studies. So the project is still conceptual, and based on those kinds of input may be modified through the zone change process. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you for your attention and consideration, and I'm available to answer questions.
Thank you. Before I turn it over to committee members, I did have 2 questions. So first of all, thank you for at least, putting a number for the 120 AMI, which I felt that you didn't do since you're talking about workforce development. But I have 2 questions. First, you said, what is the percentage of the North Shore population that is in that workforce development category, which is 120 and below? You threw out a percentage. How much was that?
I just said that it was greater than the less than 80%, but based on the census data that we've looked at, among people on the North Shore that rent their housing, roughly 45% of the market is in the 80 to 120% AMI group.
Okay, and so that leads to my second question. So then why is your proposal not proportionate to that percentage? In other words, the total would be 31% of the 156 units right now. 31% of your 120 and 80 AMI is the percentage of your total amount of units. So why would you not be proportionate to what the market bears? if you're telling me the need is at 45% and you only have 31%, then I don't think you should be stating that you are targeting the workforce housing segment.
What I'm stating is that the market rent for these units will not be higher than the 120%. The way these units are designed, given their size and amenities, they're meant for and designed for that gap group at the 120% and below AMI group. So
Yeah, you could do that, but you can also just increase the number instead of 20% of the units, you can increase the numbers too. But anyway, thank you for your clarification. Other members? Vice Chair Dos Santos Tam?
Thank you. I have two questions, and I'll turn it over to my colleagues. First is, earlier you mentioned that short-term rentals won't be allowed. How will that actually be enforced? Is it simply because this part of Haleiwa just isn't eligible, or will there be affirmative steps, say by the homeowner association and other, folks to actively stop them?
yeah, good question. So first off, it's outside of the resort district, and we're not requesting that it be rezoned to a resort district, and therefore it's already outside of any realm of consideration for short-term rentals. But it's likely that a prohibition on short-term rentals will also be a condition of a zone change or something like that. So that kind of condition would be welcome, but because of the existing rules related to short-term rentals, it's not really required to prevent short-term rentals at this project.
Yeah, thank you. I think from my perspective, it will be important to have additional further affirmative steps to make sure that there aren't going to be short-term rentals in this area, given that the focus is on housing. The other thing is, earlier you mentioned that there would be neighborhood businesses and not surf shops. And I think I have a picture of what a neighborhood business is, but could you elucidate on that a little bit more? And then also, how is that actually going to be enforced? Are we going to restrict, I don't know, surf shops and, bougie acai bowl places? I don't know.
Yeah, good question. So when you talk about neighborhood businesses, we're normally talking about things that cater to the local community that may consist of like even medical offices, but also like a post office kind of place, like a FedEx or a Copy Express or something like that, just as an example. And when it comes to prohibiting surf shops, I think that the fact that it's not right on Kamehameha Highway and that the space is relatively small, it's going to be divided into smaller units. I think those factors alone will probably discourage businesses that are catering to the tourist market. But during the zone change process, there could be consideration given to how to make that more robust.
Thank you. And I look forward to exploring kind of how we can do that, maybe through the occupancy classification or something like that. Because, all these businesses now go viral, and all it takes is just one thing, and then all of a sudden there's a bunch of, tourists coming off Cam Highway and inundating a neighborhood. So that's it. I'll turn it over. I have a few more questions later.
Thank you. Councilmember Wire.
Thank you, Chair. And echo the mahalo for holding the committee meeting this evening as well to make it more accessible for the community. I think most of my questions are for DPP, but I'll ask a quick couple questions of the developer. You had referenced the number of housing units that were supposed to be needed under the Sustainable Communities Plan. What was that number again?
I think it's 780 something.
Okay.
I would have to find that in my notes.
That's specific to Haleiwa town, or is that just the general?
That's the North Shore Sustainable Communities area.
Okay, and I only ask because we have like other projects coming up, like Wailu Mill Camp and whatnot, so just wanted to know the exact number. And then I think I missed it, but what was the market rent gonna be?
Well, the comparable market rate today is roughly $2,700. And during our May 29th presentation, we mentioned that if these units were available today, the market rent could be in the range of $2,800. But, you know, like I said, these units are probably at least 4 years away from being occupied. And it'll kind of depend on conditions at that time. But that's, again, the unit prices were likely going to be below the maximum for the 120% AMI group.
Okay, so the 3,800 referencing the 120% AMI is merely a reference to the HUD restriction on the 30% income
Yeah.
limitation?
Yeah, so that's the maximum that like HUD and other agencies anticipate a family earning 120% AMI could afford. But we're not planning to charge the maximum necessarily. It's what the market would bear at that point in time.
Okay, so that one, I mean, in reality, then if it's limited to 120% AMI, you're saying you would still match the market to fill them. Am I understanding correctly?
Yes.
Okay, and then so when you have a market rate number, 109 units, you're saying that that would be just reflection of any restrictions on it, not necessarily the exact rent it's going to be.
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
So the vision has always been that these units are for the workforce housing gap group, and that's generally, those families in that group are generally centered in the 100% AMI neighborhood, right? So that would be where the price is likely to fall.
Okay, and I only ask because like 140% AMI takes it up to like 40, little less than 4,800. We talked about this before, just update wise. Are there any other facets of the project that would put these restrictions in place in terms of capping the rent? And I ask that because, you know, obviously whatever the discussion is regarding the ordinances we have now, there'd be maybe a required affordable amount, but there's no other financing involved that's going to limit or restrict or assess specific restrictions on the rest of the units?
Not at this time, no.
Okay.
That could change as time goes on, but currently there's no HUD funding or other funding anticipated for these projects, and therefore the affordable housing agreement that would be part of the zone change would be the only affordable housing agreement associated with this project.
Okay, and then last question, Chair, appreciate it. So in terms of the environmental review of the parcel, because you had mentioned that it was used as a laydown yard and that would make it ineligible for use for ag, even though it's zoned ag 1. Was there actual analysis that arrived at that in terms of, you know, testing, soil testing, or was it purely looking at the use as you mentioned?
Yeah, so we looked at a number of things when we evaluated the likelihood of agriculture occurring on the site in the future. And we looked at like the Land Study Bureau or LSB ratings, and some of the rating, like the land was kind of patchy. Part of the parcel is rated well and part of the parcel is not rated well. We looked at how the land was used during the sugarcane plantation era. And even in the sugarcane plantation era, the site was not farmed entirely. Only portions of the site were farmed because the sugarcane operation also found that portions of the site were not amenable for agriculture. And then we did archaeological test pits during the environmental assessment phase. And those test pits, you know, you get a cross section in the trench and you could see like base course and other soils mixed together so that the natural soil that had been present back in the sugarcane days was no longer intact and had been blended or entirely taken away during the bypass construction. And so given all those factors, along with the topography and the isolation from ag water and other factors that I brought up, And the fact that no one has approached the owner suggesting or desiring to do agriculture at the site, it doesn't seem like it's a likely use. And even back when the bypass was built, in their environmental impact statement, they wrote that all the land mackay of the bypass was likely to be urbanized at some point in the future. So this conversion, it's a very gradual conversion. This is just one small parcel. But the gradual conversion of some of the land on the mackay side of the bypass has been envisioned since that EIS was prepared and in the Sustainable Communities Plan.
Do you have the LSB map you were talking about? You said some land was better than others.
It's in our application.
Okay.
I don't have it as part of our presentation, but it's in the application.
Understood. Mahalo. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Cordero?
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. I do have a question relating to the proposed 150 to 156 bedroom rental apartment units, as well as the current 2 access points to and from Kamehameha Highway. Did you do an assessment as to the amount of units that would then allow for a comparable amount of access points, and is 2 sufficient for 150 to 156 units?
Yeah, thanks for that question. So there was a traffic impact analysis prepared during the environmental assessment phase, and that was in roughly 2015, 2016 timeframe. We're currently updating that traffic impact assessment, but the 2 access points, and you can see one of them on this figure, Opaiula Road, which is there by Ace Hardware, and that's at the northern end of the project site. And then the other one is the Cane Hall Road on the south end of the site, and this map doesn't show it extending to Kamehameha Highway, but that's what it does. And there's a traffic intersection, a signalized intersection there. And certainly that amount of access is appropriate to the number of units. And our traffic assessment that was previously done found that traffic wouldn't be substantially affected by this project. And we are in the process, like I said, of updating that study, and that study will be reviewed by Department of Planning and Permitting prior to the zone change application being submitted per the conditions of this boundary amendment. So that'll be information that becomes available soon.
Thank you. And when is that study going to be updated? When are you planning to submit that or resubmit that to the Department of Planning and Permitting?
Well, it should be soon. Like I said, we can't proceed with a zone change until that is done. So there's incentive for the developer to get that done quickly. And I think if Bill 37 passes, then that'll be very shortly in time.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, committee members. Thank you. At this point in time, I'd like to actually reverse the order of the hearing and actually have the administration come up and testify. And the reason being, of course, I know this is an evening hearing, and just to be courteous to a lot of the residents who have come and may have to leave after they testify, I wanted you to be able to hear from the administration on their position and also hear the inquiry from members of this committee. So with that, I'd like to call upon the Department of Planning and Permitting. The Director. Good to see you. I wasn't expecting you this evening, but thank you for coming.
Thank you. Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Donna Puna for DPP. We are in support of this proposed boundary amendment, and I have staff here who can answer any questions about the DPP's review as well as the project itself. Thank you.
Thank you. Before you go into that, actually, would they be able to briefly summarize before we go into Q&A with regard to what went into their thinking and the development of their position on this matter for the benefit of the general public
Yes,
and the members of the committee before we go into Q&A?
certainly. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Apuna. Good evening, Council Chair Kiana and members of the Zoning Committee. My name is Franz Cranes. I'm the Chief of the Community Planning Branch. And we reviewed this project and presented our recommendation to the Planning Commission at their January 2025 hearing. A lot of what I'm going to say is going to sound repetitive to what Mr. Hayes said, in that I think we all took a close look at the 2011 North Shore Sustainable Communities Plan and seeing how this proposed state land use district boundary amendment conformed and is consistent with that plan. Several sections in the plan regarding country towns, commercial development, residential development, talk about being in close proximity to urban areas such as Haleiwa and Waialua. In fact, as Mr. Hayes showed on the presentation, this is sandwiched between the bypass road and Haleiwa town itself. In fact, I might quote one of the sections where it does talk about development, redevelopment, infill development being Mackay of the Joseph P. Leung bypass road. So in that, and as a matter of just good planning principles, having development in close proximity to existing infrastructure, existing services, it made sense in that respect. Now, we do recognize that the plan also has a very strong focus on preserving agricultural land. And so there's this tough balance weighing the pros and cons of that. But if we look at where agriculture can go on the North Shore, we felt it's much more suitable in other areas, in the rural areas of the North Shore. But for any type of development, particularly affordable housing, being in close proximity on this site in Haleiwa made much more sense. So our recommendation to the Planning Commission was with conditions. They recommended to this council and the not only approval, but approval with conditions for affordable housing, a traffic survey, a traffic impact analysis done, as Mr. Hayes mentioned, that be completed and reviewed by our traffic review branch within DPP prior to the zone change application. The Planning Commission did add a couple additional conditions, and those included for the wastewater treatment plant or system that will support this development, as well as a more robust community engagement program. As Mr. Hayes mentioned, the State Land Use District Boundary Amendment is just the first part of this until they get regulatory entitlements. And at that stage, the zone change process will really start to dictate what ultimately what the uses will be, what the density will be, the heights, and as well as the internal circulation pattern for the development. So even though the slide's not up on the screen at the moment, if you remember the adjacency to the existing urban area, state land use urban area, and then sandwiched between the bypass highway, we felt strongly, as well as the Planning Commission did, that as long as these conditions are met, that this should be amended to the state land use urban district.
Thank you so much. Members, any questions? Vice Chair Dos Santos Town.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to follow up with this notion that I guess what we're doing through Bill 37, it's proposing just to amend the state land use boundary, and all the homes and neighborhood businesses and bougie acai shop or whatever it is is a separate approval process. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And so to the extent that the claim here is that because this is Mackay of the highway, it's on the already urbanized side of the highway, that it should be amended. But is that looking at the map, there's other parcels that are also Mackay of Joseph P. Leong Highway that aren't being amended now. And so I guess, is it appropriate to amend just for a single proposal, or should we take the hard step, if it's truly merited, right, to just say everything Mackay, this is the boundary now, it's cut off from the rest of the ag, whatever, and make that call now? I just worry that every time we do this, it's project by project, and it ends up being a little bit disjointed. Does that make sense?
If I could comment on that, I think it does. In fact, when we looked at this project, we did look at those adjacent lots as could they be candidates for boundary change. However, we don't have the ownership, we don't have approval or interest by the owners stepping forward. I can't say we went out and advocated for that. That's really not our kuleana. But the State Office of Planning and Sustainable Development, they do a 5-year review of the boundaries, the state land use district boundaries. And oftentimes it's brought up where those parcels that kind of fall in the gray area, if you will, between what should be urban, what should be agriculture, the remnant pieces, not necessarily suited for agriculture anymore, should those be changed? But again, I think it requires, this is probably more from a legal side, but it probably requires that is the owner's interest to do so and petition the state and us to do so.
Okay, so in those 5-year reviews, did it ever come up to do this whole swath versus just parcel by parcel? Because you mentioned there is a 5-year review process. Did this area, including the adjacent parcels, ever come up during those discussions?
Not this parcel, no. Or not this area, no.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Wire.
Thank you, Chair. And mahalo for the work in providing the information to the committee. Okay, so I know that the presentation has 150 to 156 units, but I thought I heard you mention that the density and height of the project would still need to be worked out. Could you kind of explain that? Because I would think that would affect or relate to the number of units allowed on the parcel.
I would think through the community engagement process that is required now as part of this state land use district boundary amendment, that depending on what the outcome of that will be, that there may be, and even the traffic impact assessment, there may be some influence by the impacts that this development causes, that you could see a reduction. And again, that all has to be vetted, I suppose, from a market analysis if it pencils out. But I could see that there'd be some adjustment in those numbers. And I think the applicant's representative alluded to that as well, the possibility of that.
Have you been to the parcel in question as a part of your due diligence?
To the site?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I think one of the concerns too, I think the manager or the developer mentioned, or the owner rather, mentioned the 2 access points. So is it your understanding that'd be the entrance and then the exit at both sides of the parcel?
It's possible it could be circulatory that way. I would expect there'd probably be some improvements required, both in road design to ensure that there's safe travel between the site itself and the entryway.
Yeah.
And that we would expect as well some pedestrian circulatory sidewalks and whatnot to facilitate ease of access for pedestrians, residents who live at this project, should it occur.
Okay, and I bring that up because I think there's concerns about the number of units going on a particularly small parcel with limited access points on both sides. And then, of course, you're familiar with the residential properties adjacent to the parcel as well.
Correct. There are a number of residences as well as commercial businesses there.
Okay. Can you explain the evaluation of impact on them that is incorporated into this process, or is that a part of the process?
I'm sorry, evaluation of what, please?
The impact on those neighboring residential existing properties.
a lot of them back up to this site. So it's really those who live there are going to be looking at the back, basically back of house of these businesses and residents. I can't say any actual survey was done in talking with those residents or businesses how they felt about that.
Because is it your understanding that all those properties are zoned residential?
No, they're Zone B.
Oh, the homes are Zone B.
Yeah, there's some business zoned properties there as well.
Okay, so in terms of the evaluation of the interplay, and you talked a little bit about the business or the commercial need, or maybe that was the developer, or the owner. Sorry, I keep mixing. But in terms of the evaluation of the need for housing versus additional commercial space, could you walk through that a little bit more too?
Yeah, I think that's a bit beyond what we looked at in terms of the actual need for that. I think we were focusing on, does this parcel make sense of being in an urban district? I think those are questions, though, that we do have that we want to explore as well, as I'm sure a number of other agencies or sister agencies, whether they be the Traffic Review Branch or the Land Use Permits Division and others, as we get into more of the zone change hearing, what can be supported. A lot, I would say, that we've heard is that maybe 30,000 square feet of commercial is too much. But if you go back and look at the environmental impact statement or assessment on this, it was a lot higher density at that point in terms of providing public parking and the amount of commercial space as well as residents. So I think it's back down from even then when it was proposed in 2000 or evaluated in 2016.
Okay. Malo, last question, Chair. And then did you have an opportunity to review any of the testimony?
I did. Yes, I did.
Okay, and I only asked, I noted there's 167, I think,
That's growing.
in opposition. What was it earlier? You said it's growing?
It was earlier today. It was 145.
Okay. And so, then I'll limit it. I won't expect you to have updated it on the most recent 20, but having reviewed the testimony, what would your analysis or reflection on the concerns raised be? And I think there's pretty broad feedback. I mean, a good one was like, you buy ag land, you use it for ag land, which I think is kind of a recurring theme, just given the impact on agricultural land across Oahu. But of course, there are other concerns, some of that we've talked through. So I'm just curious, like, if there are additional considerations that are being taken or additional research that's needed to assess this whole process?
Certainly. And both personally, having visited Haleiwa on a number of occasions and listening and being part of the North Shore update, Sustainable Communities Plan update over the last several years, we hear those complaints about traffic and noise and any amount of development or impacts from development. So I think that's part of what the analysis that we'll get into when we get to the zone change standpoint. I think when we review the project, we'll have a keen ear and eye for those types of things, those particular things that will help the project improve. I'd like to think that the outcome of the community engagement process will help dictate some of that as well in terms of what type of design, what type of density that the community, especially if they feel it's for them, that and for the residents, that this is an asset to the community, not a detriment. But again, I think there's a lot of things that have to be addressed before that point. Certainly, we hear that a project like this is really intended to keep the country. So we don't have sprawl, right? It's kept within the urban developed area on the North Shore.
Malo, Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you. Thank you very much for presenting the review that you've done, as well as the position from the department. I was wondering, just off of other properties that are there that are parallel to major highways, how important are buffer properties, and normally how large are they as it relates to safety between major highways and whether it be business or housing? What is the recommended spacing in between it?
You know, oftentimes, multifamily housing is looked at as a buffer between, higher, more intense use and those that are less dense, less intense, such as single family. So often on a major corridor, you'll see a business, you'll see maybe higher density housing, whether it's apartments, townhomes, et cetera, and then you'll get into your single family as you move away from that higher density. This is a little bit different in that sense, but by the same way, it does act as a buffer.
I see. And so if it so 150 to 156 units would be a lower density urban use in comparison to, let's say, my district in Kalihi and Kupalama.
Yeah, at that rate, we're looking at 7 acres over 150. So, 20 units per acre. That's a bit high.
Okay.
For this particular area.
It's high for this area. Okay.
Generally.
And with that in mind, and with the makeup or with the shape of the property that's being applied for, it's 200 in the application. It says 250 feet wide and 1,700 feet in length, right? And for me, in that area, it automatically makes me think that property, as it currently is a buffer property as it is right now, right, without any actual development there. So my question would be, what would be the buffer between the major highway or major roadway and the new proposed units and new proposed businesses that are proposed for that area?
It's definitely a challenging piece of land. I think the applicant's representative said it was challenging even for agriculture. It'll be challenging in this sense too, in terms of getting because it is so elongated. My understanding for the contemplated zone change of zoning for the parcel, that the landscape strip will be 20 feet. Now the topography is such that it'll be lower from the highway, I believe. Maybe not from the top story if it's 3 stories, but generally the at-grade level is lower.
Okay. And 20 feet at minimum, right?
That's the width, yes.
Oh, width. Okay. Yeah. With minimum though buffer.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember. At this time, I'd like to take public testimony, proceeding first with in-person testimony in the council chamber. Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers for this item?
Chair, we have a list.
When I call your name, please come forward to the testifier podium and begin by stating your name for the record. Please conclude your remarks promptly when you hear the buzz of the timer. First on the list is Mark Anthony Clement.
Aloha, ahi ahi, Chair Kiaina, Vice Chair Dos Santos Tam, members. My name is Mark Anthony Clemente on behalf of the Hawaii Regional Council of Carpenters, representing more than 6,000 hardworking members of the Hawaii Carpenters Union. We stand firmly behind our written testimony and strong support of Bill 37, but I'd just like to highlight a few key points. First, just want to repeat what DPP has already stated. This is a state land use boundary amendment. It's consistent with the North Shore Sustainable Communities Plan and makes sense. Further, a commitment for affordable housing, a traffic survey, and a traffic impact report is still needed prior to any zone change. You know, too often, new development on the North Shore skews towards luxury, and this is simply out of reach for local families out there. but the Haleiwa Backyards project conceptually is geared towards the workforce. The second point I'd like to make is that our members who live in and around the North Shore would love the chance to work minutes from home, spend more time with their families, stay rooted in the place they love. And more than 100 of our members have signed a letter in support of this bill. I just want to mahalo the community members who are out here today to testify, here in person and here online. I also live on the North Shore, and I know the frustration. We've seen broken promises from developers who pledged to build responsibly, who pledged to hire local, pay living wages, yet never followed through. And that pain is real, and we haven't forgotten that either. But we believe that this project deserves a chance. The Haleiwa Backyards project represents a different path, one for working families to live in the community and work in the community. And again, we strongly support this bill, and mahalo for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you so much. Members, any questions? Thank you so much. We're going to move on to Raquel Achu.
Thank you. Raquel Achu of the Wailua Moku North Shore. Mahalo, Chair Kia'aina and committee members for accommodating our community in the scheduling of your meeting. I am Piko to the Moku of Wailua, and I am in opposition of Bill 37 and the rezoning of ag land. Rezoning and development with no nexus to ag on ag land cripples our ability to continue, strengthen, and support our agriculture in any form. There are other ag options other than crops, and the impacts of a development of this nature in Haleiwa would severely impact our community. Our situation changes every day. As it is, we are significantly affected by the influx of tourism, traffic, and sorely limited resources and infrastructure. The Moku of Wailua is challenged daily with the strain of navigating everyday way of life. The Opaiula Road that was referenced in the plan earlier abuts a cemetery, and that road is very narrow, and that would be of significant concern if it needed to be widened. It's a very old cemetery lot, and that would be in one way in and out kind of access right there that is currently used by Ace Hardware's warehouse in the back. The reference of our 2011 North Shore Sustainable Communities Plan, it's 14 years ago. I'm currently the vice chair of the North Shore Neighborhood Board and the chair of the Ag Committee. So this comes up quite often in having to reference it. The rental rates reflected earlier are extremely out of reach. We are surviving. We're not living. We're just surviving. So I hope you're able to consider everyone's testimony and concerns in making your decision. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Members, any questions? Next testifier is Kathleen Pahinui.
Mahalo, Chair, and a mahalo again for allowing for this evening meeting. We really appreciate it, committee members. I want to echo what Vice Chair Dos Santos Tam said about this piecemeal project by project. We have a plan, a North Shore Sustainable Community Plan. It is under review. Why don't we wait until that plan comes finished so we can see what the community really wants? They talk about community engagement. The developer has come twice to our board meeting. Once was just a, hi, we're here, we wanna talk story. And every time they come to us, even the last two meetings, the presentation keeps changing. I'm sorry, $3,800 is not affordable. To call this an affordable housing project is laughable, in my opinion. That's more than my mortgage. So we really want this to hold until we can get our sustainable community plan done. And Franz, I know you're a part of that process. We need to get this done because this is not the first time we're going to be coming before you with issues. and this piecemeal way of doing business is inappropriate. So we really want to thank you very much for your time tonight. Aloha.
Thank you so much. Members, any questions? The next
Chair,
testif-
I did have a
Councilmember Wire.
Thank you, Chair. I was just hoping you could elaborate more on the covenant issue with the road. Are you familiar with that?
Well, the bypass is there. It runs behind the project, as Jim had talked about. And anyone that thinks, well, maybe the bypass, you could have it on and off to help alleviate traffic. DOT put a restriction on that back in 1997 when that road was built. And it doesn't allow for any additional on and off ramps to any project. By the way, before I finish, I just want to let you know 6 of our board members are here tonight. The North Shore Neighborhood Board did oppose this boundary changement. Thank you.
Mahalo.
Thank you. The next testifier is Cheryl Matsumoto.
Good evening. My name is Cheryl Matsumoto. Thank you for the opportunity. I want to say that I personally oppose this project. Haleiwa Town doesn't have the infrastructure to support increased traffic that the retail space and homes will bring. Currently, residents like myself avoid going into Haleiwa Town after 10:30 in the morning because of the tourists that come to town to shop and to eat at all the food trucks that have popped up. It's common for traffic to be backed up all the way from Weed Circle, and it'll take me 10 minutes to go from Weed Circle all the way to Ace Hardware. The road that next to Ace Hardware, as I think Raquel pointed out, is right next to a cemetery, next to Liliokalani Church, and I just cannot see having 2 cars going in and out and foot traffic passing by without tearing down Ace Hardware or breaking into the graveyard. Thank you for the time.
Thank you so much. Members, any questions? Next testifier is Denise Antolini.
Aloha, good evening. Mahalo, Chair, again for having this meeting this evening. Aloha, committee members. My name is Denise Antolini, North Shore resident and also a proud member of the North Shore Neighborhood Board, which is firmly in opposition to this project. A couple of key points. To Don and Franz, thank you. Thank you for your work on this project. We firmly disagree with your position, but we respect your investment in it and your help with us changing our North Shore Sustainable Communities Plan. And even though those changes, I served on CPAC with many people here, even though those changes are confidential, I don't think the developer can say that plan is not going to change. It will. Couple other things. There is already active ag within Haleiwa, a lot of it. In fact, the Jack Johnson's Kokua Farm, 9 acres, was going to be a housing development, and now it's fantastic, beautiful ag right in the heart of Haleiwa. There are other very active ag parcels in Haleiwa, so I don't buy the developer's proposition that this couldn't be used for ag. Couple other points. The traffic analysis is going to be redone, but it's going to be held hostage until after this decision. That's what I heard the developer say. That should be here, present. You should be able to see that. We should be able to see that. That is critically important. I have to say, you heard us all laugh when the presenter said, this keeps the country country. That is laughable. It really is, and I'm sorry, we just have an emotional outburst. We are so committed. That phrase has a lot of meaning for our community, and for a developer to propose commercial and housing and saying keep the country country is ridiculous. Haleiwa is a rural village, essentially. It doesn't have sewer. We are not urbanized. We're begging eventually to get sidewalks, which are coming. So there's so many, I guess, disjointed things here that this is a bad penny parcel. As I said, it's a bad investment, but the burden should not be shifted to the community. This is the time to make a decision, not we're going to design it so the community will accept it later on. Really appreciate your considering this. And DPP, I do hope you listen to the testimony and that it might change your position. because I think DPP should listen to the community. It's overwhelming. There's only one person in support, and that's an industry position, which we respect, but the community is overwhelmingly in opposition. Mahalo.
Thank you. Members, any question? Next testifier is Charlene Fu.
Aloha, and thank you again, because I'm happy to be able to attend this meeting. And I think I'm in an interesting position, because I am on the neighborhood board. I also have visitor industry business, and I also live there. So I try to do the balancing act, you know. And yeah, I think number one, the sustainability plan is too old. I don't know why the new one's not out yet, but things have changed a lot in 15 years, 14, 15 years. When it was done in 2011, maybe it looked like it should be urbanized. But, you know, I don't go to Haleiwa as a resident, like she said, after 10:30 in the morning. And I don't go there certainly after 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I may have to plan my life around traffic, even though I have visitors stay at my place. There's a limit to everything. But as a resident, it's really difficult to get around. And I think like he said, you've got to do the traffic study way before you change the zoning on anything. And I really think we should, as Kathleen said, we should wait for the sustainability, because I think in 15 years, a lot of it has changed. And I think this is a bit rushed, and I think those are not affordable prices. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Members, any questions? If not, we're going to move on to Karen Gallagher.
Aloha, everybody. I'm Karen Gallagher, North Shore resident since 1979. Have a lot of hats. I'm a business owner. I am the president of a nonprofit which is engaged in trying to alleviate the traffic. It's called North Shore Transportation Alternatives, because traffic is so horrendous right now. And I also am a parent and a grandparent, and I run a local community environmental magazine for over 20 years out there. So I am extremely in touch with the community in various ways. And we were just talking the other day, a group of us, about, what about, Costco or Walmart close? And everybody in the group just groaned and said, no, we want to drive to go shopping. We don't want that in our community. If we wanted that in our community, we'd live in Mililani or Kapolei. It's just a really bad idea. And I have a couple of, bye.
Wait, members, is there any questions? Are there any questions for the testifier? Perhaps to summarize your comments.
Yes. Hi, Karen. May I ask that you summarize or complete your testimony? I feel like you're almost ending there, but if I could just
I appreciate that.
hear the
Thank
rest instead of just saying bye. Okay.
I was trying to be respectful. So yeah, I have a problem with what they use for the income for the family. Okay, they always have these really high incomes for all of our families out there, and I think what they really don't take into account is that these families that they're counting the income consist of at least 4 to 6 income earners in that family. So to say that this is a price that a family can afford is just not right. I also have a problem with I'm wondering, everyone I know that lives in apartment buildings has to pay maintenance fees. So I haven't heard any talk about maintenance fees, and a lot of times those make a place unaffordable. Let's see. What else? Yeah, it's just, it's just too much traffic, like everybody said. And I would like to ask Mr. Clemente how many of those union carpenters actually do live in the North Shore. I think that's an important part, and those are temporary jobs anyway. And The exit, like by Ace Hardware, is really congested because almost directly across the street is Kamehameha Schools' Haleiwa store lots, which is almost the same size as what is proposed down the other street. And then, like they said, with the cemetery there, and there's not room for a big road. And I mean, the only logical solution would be a traffic light, which nobody wants, and it's going to be real dangerous. We had a community member get killed on the side of the road 6 months ago, and a dear friend of mine's son is fighting for his life right now. He got hit by a car on Saturday. Horrific. So traffic is out of control, and it's unregulated, and we don't want any more. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Aloha. Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the council chamber who would like to testify on this item? Please come forward to the testifier podium and begin by stating your name.
Aloha, Chair and committee members. My name is Larry McElhenney. Strongly opposed to this boundary amendment. I'm fairly familiar with North Shore Sustainable Communities plans. I can't quote verbatim from all of them, but I can give you a general idea what two of them say. One of them says that the fundamental concern of the residents is to retain the rural character of the area. Another Sustainable Communities plan, an earlier one, said that the North Shore serves as a haven and respite from the more urbanized areas of Honolulu. Now, there's been quite a few mentions of the Sustainable Communities plan tonight, talking, and the claim is that this project would keep the country country. It's not funny, because what's the name of this bill? It's a change from ag to urban. That's what this does. It changes it from ag to urban. And to claim that that keeps the country country is beyond me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Members, any questions? Is there anyone else in the council chamber who would like to testify on this item?
Aloha Chair Kiana, members. My name is Dawn Bruns from the North Shore. To think that even one additional property could be developed in the Haleiwa downtown area and traffic could sustain that would be incorrect. So I'm not sure why a traffic study is needed, because we already have wall-to-wall backed up traffic. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anybody else?
Aloha, I'm Saz. I do not support this project. I don't know how often you all come out to North Shore, but Haleiwa is the first town you hit, and it's getting more and more congested by the day. With how bad traffic is, I feel like a prisoner in my own backyard, and I'm sure most North Shore residents and locals do too. The start of historic Haleiwa town to Ace Hardware is exactly 1 mile and should take 5 minutes to drive, but on certain days and at certain times, it takes about 15 to 25 minutes. From Haleiwa town to Turtle Bay, it should take 30 minutes tops, not an hour 15, but that's the reality North Shore residents face. For example, many Haleiwa residents pick and choose what time to go grocery shopping, surfing, diving, fishing, or even commuting to see Ohana and friends just to avoid traffic. Andy Anderson, the landowner, developer behind Bassin Project Inc., Backyard Haleiwa LLC, wants to build these units, add parking stalls, and 30,000 square feet of commercial real estate or commercial retail space on prime ag land. That ag land, the only easement is in the heart of Haleiwa town, between Ace Hardware and historic Liliuokalani Church, which is almost 200 years old, and it also has a historic cemetery there. Please keep in mind, historic Haleiwa town is already so packed, the infrastructure cannot accommodate the amount of visitors that pass through. And now they want to add more retail space and homes in an already congested area. It's already hard enough trying to cross the street from Ace Hardware to First Hawaiian Bank. No one wants to see another stoplight in Haleiwa, but if this project goes through, there will be another stoplight. We do not need more homes built here. Locals are already priced out of buying homes. Nothing's affordable, even rentals. Currently, on average, retail spaces in Haleiwa rent for $8,000 a month, plus a certain percentage of commission kickback, which most small business owners, such as myself, cannot afford. If you look around Haleiwa town, majority retail spots are mainland owned, such as Malibu Shirts, Snoopy's Surf Shop, Whaler's Trading Post, and most art galleries. If this project goes through, just imagine what they would be charging per square foot for the retail space. Now let's talk about the reality we are all facing today. 90% of our food supply is imported. Preserving ag land districts is crucial for ensuring food security, especially since climate change heightens the risk of natural disasters that could disrupt supply chains. This proposed project threatens to change the topography of the land. It will permanently alter and transform our precious Aina. Throughout history, Haleiwa was known for its abundant and fertile soils. The landscape was covered with lo'ikalo, and its uplands flourished with diverse crops. North Shore was known as the Poi Bowl of Oahu. With all the rivers that surround Haleiwa, taro patches used to flourish. Take the time and look at old photos of Haleiwa from over 100 years ago. It was lush with food. It should be criminal for developers to buy ag land, sit on it for 10 years, just to rezone it so they can capitalize. It should be criminal they chose not to grow food on prime ag land to feed the community for the last 10 years. Back to North Shore being the Poi Bowl. It takes 10 months from planting huli to harvesting kalo. Think about how many cycles of kalo could have been harvested on that prime ag land in the last 10 years. Think about how mature fruit trees would be if that landowner who bought that ag land over 10 years ago chose to plant. We cannot sit back and allow North Shore ag land to be rezoned for commercial use when us as islanders are already dependent on imports. We all need more farmers. Haleiwa needs to preserve our Poi Bowl. Currently, this ag land plot is assessed.
You're gonna have to summarize, please.
Oh, I will summarize. Currently, this land plot is assessed at $856,000. I'd love to buy it and build a community garden for Haleiwa. That sounds more beneficial for our economy and will generate more food security. Regenerative farming will feed our people and improve soil quality. In a world of progression, we need more preservation. I do not support the state land use district boundary amendment from agricultural to urban in my town. Keep the country country. Thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you so much. Anybody else in the chamber would like to testify? Please come forward to the podium and begin by stating your name.
Hi, guys. I don't know if I can top that. Wow. That's a hard one to top. That's my daughter-in-law. Hey, guys, I'm Earl Darling. I lived in Haleiwa since 1960. Now, each and one of you guys know about what I started 54 years ago. That was the Haleiwa International Open Surf Meet. At that time, they wanted to change it and have companies come in and do it. I said, no, we will have it and open to the community, to the world, and today it is still open. It is the longest running contest in the world. Also with the Menehune contest, we started that 47 years ago. And the people that we have is all with heart. Now, I heard that gentlemen there talking about the roadway. Guess what? You got Ace Hardware there. You heard this before. You got the thing there. At the church, you know who used to go there a lot in the 1800s? The Queen. She used to live just on the other side of the bridge. She walked to the church every Sunday, okay? She does that. Now, our community is really great. What was before the 60s now is out of control with tourists. We cannot even go to the store. The young lady was saying, going to the store, you have to get there in the morning or late in the afternoon. I've supported the community of Haleiwa for a long time. With the neighborhood board, I've supported them. Why? What they do is come from their heart. People, please, open your heart, open your eyes, and see what's in front of you. Come down to the North Shore on a weekend, or even a week. This weekend is good. Come down there and see. You got the Hanapa contest going on. You got the canoe race going on. You have 3, 4 things that's going on at once at Haleiwa this weekend. Come down and see what we put up with. But you know what? Putting these homes in the back there is completely wrong. Why? One road by Ace Hardware, you go down to the Turner Road, the only stoplight we got in Haleiwa now. The only one. Can you imagine 180-something cars? Now, we're talking 2 cars per unit, okay, maybe more. But that one stoplight is going to work its butt off, and it will stop all the traffic from town and to end. It's only 1 mile from point A to point B. And for you to do that run, it's going to take you 20 minutes or longer. This weekend, forget about it. Don't even think about it. Even the bypass, because so much traffic, it goes all the way up past the water tank. Come down there, see what we have. We have our Ohana down there. So we do not need this contract things coming into our town. And the town is made out of 1 road in, and guess what? 1 road out. That's all we have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else who would like to testify? Please come forward and state your name.
Aloha, if I may testify, although I'm not from Haleiwa North Shore. Yeah, I love visiting the Haleiwa town. It's so welcoming.
Please identify yourself.
Angela Melody Young from CARES, a grassroots movement. So, like when my sister from the mainland comes to Hawaii, I'll drag them to Haleiwa, you know, just to kind of enjoy the beautiful surf spots, and of course to kind of honor some of the communities that are built there. And so I think for me, as someone who's studying to do real estate properties management, it is a balance of honoring nature and restoring environmental protection and the environment, and also realizing that economic development for tourism is something that sustains the economy. So Haleiwa has a special design district to keep in alignment
very
with
much
the
for
rural
your testimony,
characteristics.
Angela.
Yeah, and there can be things to be worked out with, like commercial retail space that can accommodate locals first.
Is there anyone else in the chamber who would like to testify in person? Otherwise, I'm going to be going to remote testifiers.
Thank you.
Clerks, do we have any remote testifiers?
Chair, we have a few standing by.
The first on my list is Deborah King. Is Deborah King online?
Chair, testifier has not logged in.
The next person we have is Leif Anderson. Is Leif Anderson online?
Yes, Chair.
Please proceed. Can you unmute yourself, please?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Please proceed.
Okay. Yeah, I'm a lifetime Haleiwa resident, actually a 3rd generation. And, you know, all I can say is just what everybody else said pretty much. But I know that the developer said that the average income is like $100,000. And I can count the friends that I have on probably one hand that makes $100,000. Most people don't. And, you know, you have this so-called low income that is not low. And you got, what, 31 houses for medium, and I think that that whole thing is flip-flop. If it was, I'm against this whole thing, but if you guys consider any part of it, I think that whole thing should be flip-flop and make it. I don't think any of the people that work in those stores in Haleiwa make enough money to pay that kind of rent. But and the other thing is, you know, they talk about agriculture. They can't. There's no such thing as you cannot grow agriculture. Agriculture can be grown any place. I've been in ag all my life, and you can agriculture can be grown any place. And we need agriculture more than anything, because if we start losing the ships from California, people are going to be fighting and killing each other for a piece of bread. So please consider that this is not a good idea for Haleiwa. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The next person we have, the name is Andrea. Is Andrea online?
Yes, Chair.
Please proceed. Andrea, are you there?
Chair, testifier is not responding.
Okay, we're going to move on to the next testifier. The last three digits is 159. Is that person online? Yes, I see it right there. Can you unmute your button, please?
Aloha. Aloha, my name is Natalie Mihana McKinney, and I'm a lifetime resident of Haleiwa. I also work in Haleiwa town, and I vehemently oppose this rezoning of this agricultural land to urban. When I arrive at work, which is in the heart of Haleiwa town by the North Shore the North Shore neighborhood, I'm very nervous, the North Shore shopping area, the first thing that you smell is sewage. We have no sewage treatment facility in Haleiwa, and every single morning, every business is pumping their septic system. There is also, as has been stated earlier, about Opaiula Road, that it's actually a lane. It is only one car can fit in and out. I frequent Ace Hardware. Actually, this morning I pulled out, and it took me about 5 minutes just to make a right turn because there was so much traffic on Kamehameha Highway. Additionally, this developer has had two developments in our zip code, which he not only lied to the public, but also had infractions. One is the Haleiwa Beach House. He was supposed to put in a new septic system and did not, with the leach field that leaches into the Loko'ea fish pond. He currently uses the Haleiwa Beach Park as parking for his restaurant when he was supposed to build his own parking facility. The other development is down in Velziland, where there was actually a swap with the city and county of Honolulu for land that was supposed to be turned into a park. That park never developed. There is a paved road that's a cul-de-sac that goes down to the beach with a gate at Kamehameha Highway, and now it is filled with homeless people. This developer is not good for our community and has only done bad things for it, and I do not support this project nor this developer. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next testifier, last three digits is 071. I see you online. Would you like to unmute? Please proceed.
Hi, Alan Lillard here. Several years ago, I worked with the Save Haleiwa Beach Park group, and we discovered a lot of information about Andy Anderson in regards to how he was able to work with the Hanneman administration as the transition coordinator for the administration to specifically get information on how to find land in Haleiwa that he could exploit. And he went through He was able to get Hanneman
Sir,
to make
sir,
all kinds.
Sir, I'm going to have to stop you. Could you please speak to the issue at hand? I know
Okay,
that
well, that was
I've allowed several
background
people to have personal attacks on the developer and
it wasn't
individual,
personal
so I
attack,
guess I would like for you to stick to the project at hand, please.
I don't know if I got muted. Am I unmuted now? Okay, if I'm still online, because I don't know, I don't hear if I am. I'm sorry for explaining information that I learned about the developer. Anyhow, I'm hoping that this property can stay ag. It definitely is not the correct time to be considering it for urbanization. There's a lot of steps that need to be done in a correct way, and hopefully we will learn from our mistakes by expediting these processes without having absolutely correct information. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else standing by remotely who would like to testify on this item? Please use the raise hand feature in Zoom or press *9 on your phone to indicate your desire to speak. I do not see any more testifiers. Is there anyone else in the room in person who would like to testify? I did have a question, members, unless you had questions of anyone else in the room. I did have a question to DPP with regard to the North Shore Sustainable Communities Plan, which has been raised. Can you tell me where are you in the process with regard to developing a new plan?
Yes, I will. Again, Franz Cranes with DPP. After our last CPAC meeting, which was held in August of 23, I want to say, we do have I'll call it an administrative draft. It's not one that we send out for comments at this point, but it is one that we've received from our consultant that's in a draft form, but it's in a good draft form. Does that make sense?
Yes. How many years have you been in this developmental stage? And I guess, please tell me, what is your time frame for completion?
We did start this contract in 2019. COVID kind of took the legs out of us a little bit. But since 23, it's been on a hold, I'll say. But now that we have this draft, I'm looking for getting out to public review draft out later this year and possibly to the Planning Commission in the first quarter of 26.
And after that process, the Planning Commission, what is the time frame?
The Planning Commission has 60 days to deliberate or get you a recommendation on that.
And then it would come to the City Council for consideration, correct?
Correct. That's correct.
Okay. Members, any questions? Thank you. It was raised.
If I could add one more thing. I believe we do have some sessions with the community, with the Citizens Advisory Committee in that time frame. So we'll be taking this draft to them and so that they have a chance to review it as well.
Before the ending of the year?
Yes.
Okay. Members, any questions? Councilmember Wire? Mahalo, everyone, for being here this evening, especially from the community. I intend to agendize Bill 37, 2025 for action at our next meeting on Thursday, June 26, 2025. There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned.